Hey there everyone, Ant here with another video for you. This is going to be an update video on Mixer. So we're going to be looking into the Dev Lab, which used to be called the Interactive Studio. So the page has changed a little bit. You now have your applications and interactive projects all right here, very apparent and displayed nice and neat. So if you are like a programmer and or you've got your own little your bot that you want to like set up for it, you can do some OAuth clients right here. If you want to test your streams without actually going live to everybody, you can send your requests in right here, which is pretty handy, especially if you're testing a bunch of interactive buttons and they need to be used for in-game or etc. It just isn't like a soundboard that you can play with or like a chat system that you can play with while offline. If you need to, you can go back to the Legacy Lab, though I would highly suggest that you convert everything over to the new Interactive Lab. While you will have to remake everything because there is no import system, it is much easier. So what you're going to want to do is hit New Project, name your title, and then project game you can set if you want. If it's not listed, just please choose other. So we're going to go other and then save. If that just gets stuck loading endlessly, just make sure you hit save again to make sure that it's saved and then click off the screen and it should go away. If you want to upload a background, you can do so. I'm just going to use my avatar. We'll use the eyeballs, kind of creepy, but we'll do it. If you need to set descriptions on what your board does and or an download link to install it, and then the description to actually download, the steps to do that, then you will set that all right here. It's pretty self-explanatory, and then you hit save. And then bam, there's my picture. Like I said, kind of creepy, but we'll go with it. So yeah, this is the info tab, after which we will be moving on to the build tab. This is where you're going to be setting up your controls and your scenes if you want multiple scenes for people to switch in between, and or you need an alternate scene for mods or subscribers, what have you, and or just specific users if you want that to be a thing. So here we are, we're going to go make a couple of controls. It is default as make a button, though you can add a joystick if you would like. And then this other one we are going to have as a button, and then we're going to name this just 1. Make another one, name it 2. Make another one and name it 3. All right, so this is a pretty easy process. We're going to go through the settings on the buttons themselves before we actually start applying them to the board. So as you can see, the joystick is only got the sample rate. This is how often, as you can see, it should report its coordinates in milliseconds. So keep that in mind. It is not seconds, it is milliseconds. So 50 is about average. You should be able to play a game with that. If you need it to be faster for, let's say, higher faster paced games and or just like platformers and stuff that require a lot of movement, then you might need it to be a little bit lower, but it should be good. If you are into meta properties, which allow you to provide custom data for your controls, you can get into that by hitting this. I am not in tune with applying values to buttons, so I don't mess with this. I will talk to a couple people and see if I can't get a little bit more information on that, and or see if they might do a collaborative video on it. But at this point, I do not have any info for you on the metadata, though you shouldn't need it to get yourself set up for an interactive stream. I don't use it, and I have 7 to 8 scenes on my standard board, so let's get into the settings of the buttons themselves. As you can see, it has a red exclamation point, which means you need to at least set the text. This is the ID of the button. When you import it into, like, let's say Firebot, this is what the ID will be. This is what the text will be on the button. And so we're going to name this test button 1. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to Control C, copy that. We can put the spark cost here. This is going to be clearly the amount of sparks that it costs for the button to be pressed. This right here is going to be a keyboard control, and it is any key, so you just click on the area and you just use whatever key you want. So we'll just use 1. The tooltip, this is what happens to pop up when you highlight the button. So we'll say press key 1 or click. Again, I don't mess with the meta properties, so we won't be adding any of that. So once you have filled this in, you just close it. And then on to the next. So we are going to paste, because this is going to be test button 2. Then again, press button 2. Actually, we should say key, so that way it's not confusing. And then we'll go back and actually change this one as well. I said button out loud, but I typed key, so rip. And then we'll do that. Number 3, again, need to set our control. We didn't set our control there. Gotta remember to fill in your keystrokes if you want it to be controlled by a keyboard. If not, just leave it and it will only be a clickable button. So press key 3 or click. Now, since these are all done, what you're going to want to do is apply them to the board. For some reason, when in Chrome, it doesn't scale properly. It cuts itself off, so you may have to make your window larger. So we're going to put the joystick, we'll put the joystick right here. How about that? And then button 1, put right here. Go up 1, please. Do button 2. And button 3. Then you can resize them to be fairly large if you'd like them to be. Don't know if you can go any, oh wait, yep, you can go much larger than that. So they have increased the size of the buttons, which is very handy for long text, such as this. If you do want to cut your text down, of course, that will make your buttons able to be smaller. If you have too much text in a small button, it tends to just run off, which it's still clickable. It just makes it harder for people to actually see the button itself. All right, so after that, you're going to want to hit save I always save every so often after I place a few buttons just to make sure that it saves, and I also try to double or triple save. So at this point, you might think that you're done and you're all set up. You're ready to import to Firebot and get yourself on your way, but you may have probably forgotten about your other grids. So you need to definitely throw your joystick on your mobile and your tablet devices, which I guess a tablet is a mobile device, but they are different scene sizes. As you can see, there are 3 different grids. You must place all your buttons on the other grids unless you just really don't care about your mobile users and don't want them to interact with you. But again, buttons were placed, double save. And then we'll do this one in the center. Well, actually, can we make it bigger? No, we cannot. We'll do that one right there just so that way it's in the middle. We don't want to offend people who may use their other hand. You know, if you put it on the right hand side, it's only going to be really easy for people using their thumbs that are right-handed, and vice versa. So it's always nice to make it. Whoop, we ran off the edge there. It's always nice to make it in the center. People that way they can use whichever hand they want. I know that was kind of redundant, just going back over myself, but hey, we are set up. So there is another few buttons. Save again. And at this point, you are pretty much ready to go. So here we are with that little bit of information, and I'm going to continue on with a couple of extras. So here we are with that little thing that I was talking about earlier, having editors. If you would like an editor, you can just go right here and allow other people to edit your development lab. So for example, I had AC's board over there, so if I went and did AC Crosser, he would show up, and then I could have him as an editor on my board as well. So you just click the person's name after you've typed it in and then hit add. and then you should have a list right here of people that are able to edit your development lab. It will only be this one board. Don't worry, it won't be all of them. It's just this one. If you would like to manage this project with other people, in terms of having them test it while you go through, you can actually allow anyone with specific version IDs to play it, and or you can have it only playable by specific users until you're ready to publish. I don't actually publish my boards because once you publish, it makes it to where you can't really edit it much, and it makes it usable by pretty much everybody across Mixer. That is something, like I was saying, I don't typically do. It's much easier to leave it within the editing process so that way you can come back, change things in and out. If you are making it for a game and it's going to be set and work perfectly every single time, like a platformer, you know, move left, right. For example, the Minecraft interactive experience or the Killing Floor interactive experience that are kind of native to the site, well, it's because someone went in and actually made a proper board and then published it for you guys. When new iterations come out, they have to go in, remake it, and then republish it. So it's not a bad thing. It just takes a little bit more work. Just the publishing does allow everyone to use it. Seeing as most of the soundboards and stuff like that are for personal use, you definitely probably don't want to publish that. Definitely, probably. Yeah, no, you definitely don't want to publish it because nobody's going to have the same sounds and same names, etc. as you. So if you move over here to the other side of the screen, there are scenes. I know we didn't really go over that, so we're going to touch base on that right now. So if you want your mods to have specific buttons, and or just like no cooldowns, etc., you would make a new board for them so that way they could feel free to spam you. And again, you got to set up all of your grids and all of your controls the same way. However, on your default board, you will have to add a mods button, or you know, name it whatever you want. I'm just going to name that mods, and then mod board, and click for mod buttons, and done. We'll have that as a no spark cost as well. And then in Firebot, if you use the scene switching thing, you can have that clickable to switch a scene only for a specific group of viewers. And then the mods will have their own board, whether it be informational tools, just like I was saying, random songs. I've seen a lot of people, they give their subboards like almost no cooldown and no spark cost, so that way it makes it a little bit more fun for them and whatnot, as where the standard board, you know, just the default board, and everybody else gets a cooldown with a generally a spark cost and whatnot. So again, we made some changes, so let's hit save. The next page is going to be code. So this is where you go to import to any of your programs or your OAuth clients or whatnot. You would hit this, and then you would take this over to, for example, like Firebot. And then you would come over here. Whoops. Then you'd come over here and you'd hit change board, and then you'd add new board. And then you would enter the code in there. And then you would add the board. And then bam, here are your controls. At this point, it is going to be getting into Firebot, so this will be in another video. If you had liked what you've seen and you'd like me to explain a little bit more on the scene switching and whatnot, I will see you all in the next video. I hope this was informative. If there's any other questions that you might have, feel free to, you know, hit me up in the comments, and or if you can find your way to Discord, you know, join the server and then ask me there in the tech help and or stream help sections, and I will be glad to assist you guys. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you later.